Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope everybody is having a great Friday and are ready for the weekend. We're going to talk about today long COVID, what it is, and what it could mean to you and for your child. First, let me start out, and I ask a question in the chat, and you all can just kind of jump in, and I love hearing from everybody. Have you ever heard of long COVID? Just to kind of get an idea if many of you had before this, and with it, with registering for the webinar, and just kind of want to know, because this was something new to me when all of this rolled out. So one of the things, and I think a lot of it we're all figuring out as we go, as COVID has really created that for us. Just to go ahead and start and tell you a little bit about us. I'm Rhonda with KYSPIN, and it's Kentucky Special Parent Involvement Network. And we are all persons with disabilities and or family members helping one another. And one of the main grants we have that we've had since KYSPIN began over 30 years ago is the Parent Training and Information Project, the Parent Center for Kentucky. And we provide training such as this, information and support to youth, adults with disabilities, their families, and professionals throughout the state. We do not act as attorneys. That's important to know. We don't represent families. We are here to help you and to provide information and support, and true peer-to-peer support. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm one of five children. Three of my siblings have disabilities from the seen to the unseen, and they all had IEPs when they were in school, and are smarter than I could wish to be. And then I also foster adopted the greatest gift of my life. So we all are truly families helping families here at KYSPIN, and all staff. That is our role, is not to do it for you, but to help you as you do and walk through things with your families. And so if there's a little delay on the slides, I apologize, because of, it's decided to storm a bunch today. So, and if you all have any questions, please use the question and chat box. And I'm starting to see some, vaguely, not much about, have heard about, the long COVID, no. So I love hearing that. And we'll use the chat. And if there's questions throughout, I'm going to pause. Kelly's on here helping us with KYSPIN. And we are going to sort of step through this. I'll pause every so often for questions. Please feel free to ask. If I don't know them, we'll work to get the answer for you. Also, too, you're going to see that there's a handout section. There's only one handout, this PowerPoint, and all of the supporting documents I'm going to show you as we go through. There are links to those documents. And if you don't have a chance or don't see it and are not able to download the handout, not to worry. We will make sure that we have that in the follow-up email that you're going to receive. That'll be this afternoon or tomorrow. It will have that handout in it. So let's go ahead and dive right on in. What is long COVID? So it is, and this was from CDC had put out, and you see where it's blue there at the top, that links you directly to their web page that all this comes from. All of this information in here is from guidance released from them, and you're going to see on the slides, I have each place that it come from is linked so you can access that exact document. What I've done, and since COVID began and all the guidance that's been issued through the U.S. Department of Education, Kentucky Department of Education, I think it's important that you not have it in Rhonda's words, but exactly from the guidance documents. So that's why you'll see a lot of words on the screen, but we're stepping through it. So we're really taking a walkthrough of the guidance in how And I think it kind of helps. It helps when I'm going through the guidance just to kind of step through it and picture how, you know, it would associate to my life, or how it is going to affect, or would help our families. So that's what we're going to do here. So first, starting off, the CDC, there are what's considered the post-COVID conditions. And again, this is all new territory for everyone because, first of all, we never thought we would ever be living through a pandemic, and not only wrapping our heads around with if you experience COVID and everything that's come with it, there is a possibility that there could be post-COVID conditions. If you had COVID. And again, it could vary, just like having COVID may affect different people in different ways. So your post conditions as well, not everybody may have them. Even if you had COVID and it wasn't, say, as severe as someone else you may know, you still could have post-COVID conditions. Some people may not have even realized that they had COVID. But that doesn't mean that you could not have the post-COVID conditions if you had COVID. And, you know, when we look at this, you know, if it's lasting longer and you're having this, you know, for 4 more weeks after first being infected with the virus, and seeing that it could look in different ways, which we're going to talk about maybe some examples of how it showed up. And it could be a combination, as we know, just like with COVID and everything that we have learned from it, especially if you have other health concerns or other things that go on, it could play a role in that, right? And could last different lengths of time for people. So the long COVID or the long haul COVID it could, you know, these are going to be the long-term effects of COVID that you might experience. Not everybody's going to. And hopefully the majority don't, right? It's just like COVID. We want as few people as possible to have COVID, just like we want as few people as possible to experience long COVID. So it helps when we step through and kind of look at what might be some of the symptoms that you could experience through this. The tiredness and fatigue, difficulty thinking and concentrating. I like that they give the example of sort of the brain fog and the shortness of breath or difficulty breathing. So it's not just physical things, like when you're talking about breathing, and it's also going to be sort of the concentrating too, which a lot of times I think we often think when there is, you know, something like COVID or the flu, we often always try to tend towards, we think of the physical things like medically, like the breathing, the tiredness, but, you know, it also can psychologically affect you. And looking at, you know, obviously like the chest pain, cough, those are physical things, but also the depression and anxiety. Those are things that could be a part of this. So it's not just the physical activity, it's mental as well. And it could be a combination. And again, there isn't a guide that's going to tell us how and to what extent, because just like children and persons with disabilities affect everyone differently, right? So we know that one person who may have autism is totally different from another person. So it's going to be the same thing as with long COVID. So it's going to affect people differently. And again, this is just an example of what some of the symptoms might look like. Again, all of this is new and it's new territory. So this guidance was released. So in July, all of this sort of rolled out with this being from the CDC as a recognized this could be a condition, right? And then guidance that here in a minute that we're going to roll into is how it could actually be considered a disability. And for our purposes here today, and what we're concentrating on is how it would affect our children and youth in school in regards to education. So that is going to be our focus in all of this. Now, long COVID, and when we're looking at this, could affect in so many other areas of your life. And again, we're figuring out and really, figuring out how it's actually going to look, right? Because we know it's going to be different for every person. But then also, this, I think, may be just the beginning of a list of symptoms, because, no one's had time to really track all that, right? So we've had concentration on the people that have COVID right now and what are symptoms that arise and how you treat it and go about it. So, I almost think that we're, and again, maybe a long ways off before we have even more of a better picture of how this is all going to look. But again, when guidance is released and in regards to this, we will make sure that we share that. So children and adolescents, and I like when they put here, for the most part, their post-COVID, long COVID conditions may not affect them as much as it would in adults, right? But it doesn't mean that it won't. And when they're reporting on this, studies that have showed so far, again, it may be different at 6 months from now, a year from now, for right now. So there may be a very small number, and my hope is that it is a very small number of children and adolescents that are experiencing the long COVID. And there's also, and these are the links too that you can click on to learn more about the multi-system inflammatory syndrome. Again, that might be something that then this caused, as well as the long COVID. So there might be something else too, which I know y'all are like, okay, we don't want anything else to have to worry about or think about. But again, just so that you have that information there. And in no means here am I a medical expert reporting on this. This is to share the information and will help just to have from the guidance that's released, where you can expand and access information, but not only that, working with your doctor and with medical professionals to really work to figure out what might be going on. Is it long COVID? Similar to the results seen in adults, the tiredness, fatigue, trouble sleeping, and we know the trouble concentrating. These are all things, and the reason that I was so thankful of the guidance that we're about to jump into, that was released from the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Special Education Programs, Office of Civil Rights, and all of them, because this can affect, we know, in education, right? The trouble concentrating. And again, this is going to be a small number of children that this is probably going to affect, and hopefully. But I love that they pointed out that, I don't know if y'all ever feel this way as an adult, but you know how when you feel bad and you can't really explain what it is? So I love that they put in here that children may not be able to explain the symptoms either, right? And especially if it's psychological or things that they're going through, but something's not right. So it does make it, hard trying to figure out, and especially for our children who may have trouble explaining things, or, may already have another disability that they're diagnosed with. If they also then have long COVID, or possibly them being able to express it, or so that we know exactly how that they are feeling, sometimes could be very difficult, because that's sort of critical information that we need in helping them and being able to share with doctors. And again, it's probably going to be a smaller amount. But again, one is, I'm on the end of, the same with COVID as with long COVID, one is too many, right? We wish we didn't even have that. So, but really looking at how this post-COVID, the long COVID, you may hear it termed different things, post-COVID, long COVID, and how it impacts them in school could be drastic for some students. Again, a very limited number, but it could. So that's then what led to the jumping off. And in July, when CDC released this, then especially because we know that this has the possibility to impact our children at school, being able to concentrate, participate. And we know from other disabilities how it could play a role in that. So it's not that one of the things I want to make sure that I point out when we're getting ready to talk about, the laws and for special education, it's not that there was a new category added. What it is now there is a condition that may impact and qualify as a disability through the educational setting. So that's really key to keep in mind too as we're going through this. And, the accommodations, and we're going to kind of talk about that as well, that they may need some different accommodations. They may not have ever received special education before, right? But now they have long COVID, so you could have either or here. You could have they don't, they haven't prior to that qualified as a disability and it hasn't affected them educationally. They could, or it could be that your child has and already receives a 504 IEP in school, and now they also in addition have long COVID. So let's kind of keep that as a preface as we kind of work through this. To kind of see how we then go about addressing where that is educationally affecting them, if it is, and if they would qualify. So what long COVID can mean for your child? Now, in the guidance, like I was talking about here, we're going to first talk about the guidance that talked about from the Department of Justice, the OCR, Office of Civil Rights guidance, how COVID, they identified that COVID could be a disability under those. So, and how it could be, it's not that it would automatically be if you were diagnosed with long COVID, right? So think of it just the same as for any other disability. When you're looking at ADA and 504 and all of those, if it substantially limits one or more major life activities, that's the key right there. And this could be that they have an actual, if it limits it and it's an actual disability, that there's been a record of it, or even if there's not a record of it, they're regarding it such as having it. And it could be physical or mental, and substantially limits one or more of those. If it doesn't substantially do it. And when we look at this, it's important, the examples, breathing, seeing. So a major life activity would be something that's very communicating. Those are things that are major life activities, and not just in education, any life activity being able to do it, or the children being able to do it. So looking at the actual disability and how that is a part of it. And when we go through here, so I want to kind of go over to this because it gives examples of long COVID, right? And how it could. So the physical impairments could include, psychological disorder or a condition affecting one or more of the body systems. That's a major life activity. So we're looking at it could be lung damage, heart damage, kidney, but it has to affect you in that way in doing life activities, right? And these are the physical examples. And if you're experiencing those or your children experience those through the long COVID. Now, when we look at this, here is, perfect example of the performing manual task. It doesn't just any task that you would go about doing, caring for yourself, seeing, hearing, eating, sleeping, walking, standing, sitting, reaching. I love examples. Again, this is not an end-all list. Writing, thinking, communicating. These are going to be things that are major life activities, and you're going to look at. So we kind of have to look, is it in any of those major things limiting them in any way, in at least one of those areas? Now, substantially limits is broader under this. And the thing about it is it just a sort of a minor thing, or does it greatly impact them? And sometimes that can be very hard to tell, because sometimes, depending upon what you're doing, it may not show as much, if that makes sense. And looking at, one of the things that I think is important down here, even if the impairment comes and goes, it is considered a disability if it would substantially limit a major life activity when the impairment is active. Because we know that sometimes, and especially when you're looking at physical things, or, with your health, you can have flare-ups, right? So just because it might not be today, it might tomorrow. And when it does tomorrow, and you have the history of it, or you're presumed as having the long COVID, it would affect you in a major life activity. So some other examples here that I think are important, and I absolutely love when the guidance gives examples because it helps us so much. Again, this is just examples. So a person with long COVID who has lung damage that causes shortness of breath, fatigue, and related effects is substantially limited in respiratory function, among other major life activities. So that is a major life activity, because you have to be able to breathe. A person with long COVID who has symptoms of intense pain, vomiting, and nausea, they have lingered for months, is substantially limited in their gastrointestinal function, among other life activities. A person with long COVID who experiences memory lapses, a brain fog, is substantially limited in brain function, concentrating and or thinking. And it does make it hard too, being able to tell the extent, especially if children aren't able to express it to us. Like, we know as parents and teachers also know too, maybe if something's just, like I said before, something may just not be right, but it's hard to tell to the extent. And I think that's what makes it difficult for all of us, because we want to do and help the best we can, but sometimes it's hard, especially with something so unknown as COVID and long COVID now. So is it always going to be long COVID considered a disability under 504 and ADA? No, it is if the symptoms substantially limits a major life activity. It's also important to know that when we're talking about ADA and 504, those cover, that's not just education that covers all areas, right? It's for persons to be afforded the same opportunities as their non-disabled peers. This could be in the workplace. This could be in school. It could be in a variety of means. But for our purposes, we're concentrating on the school for this training and everything. But I just wanted everybody to know that in that, it would cover other aspects outside of school, because it is the civil rights law. Now, what rights do you have? So now we know. So if they happen to qualify, you're entitled to the same protections as any other person without a disability would be able, that any other person with a disability would qualify under ADA or 504. So it's not that if you have this, you qualify, but just for this, right? So you have the same protections. And because that sometimes is a question often asked, even when we're not talking about long COVID, we're talking about a variety of disabilities that might qualify. Now, this also could be that, and here's the perfect example of in businesses or state or local governments. For students looking at the educational example, it could be providing additional time on a test for a student who has difficulty concentrating, modifying procedures so a customer, in a business, if they're tiring for standing in line, they can announce their presence and sit down without losing their place in line. Providing refueling assistance at a gas station for a customer who cannot physically, because of the pain, pump their own gas. So those type of things are going to be things that you would be able to get just like if it was any other disability and if it limited at least one major life activity. So this now is different guidance in addition in July that was released, and this was from the Office of Special Education Programs, OSEP, and OSER, Office of Civil Rights. This is the long COVID under Section 504 and IDEA, which it thrills me when we get so much helpful guidance, and the Kentucky Department of Education is also amazing at guidance, which you all have seen since COVID hit and beyond, that helping us as we sort of navigate this new territory together. So before we dive into this, I want to pause for a moment to see about questions.
Okay, Rhonda, we do have a couple of questions. The first one is, how do you go about letting the school know that this is continuing to happen to your child?
So I'm assuming that your child has the condition, or that they feel, excuse me, that this is a condition that they have. Well, and that's a perfect question, and we're going to explain, like y'all are awesome, you get ahead of me here. We're going to explain what you would do, and especially in regards to school, that first and foremost, if you are seeing those things, I think it would be important, and especially those concerns, if you feel, because a lot of us, I'm going to be honest, I did not know until CDC released this in July about long COVID. Had never heard it before, and many people have not. Many people had not heard it at all, even now. There's not a lot out there about it. So, especially because of the medical stuff, I would contact your doctor. But for the school, we're going to step through here, and I'll explain what you do, and it'll help kind of seeing how it fits in with 504 IDEA, depending upon which one that they, if they already have one in place, or that they might qualify. So hold on just a moment to that, but that is a perfect question. And I would let them know immediately too. So do we have one more before I move on and jump into it?
There is one more. You may address it here in a few minutes. It says, how do I go about getting a long COVID diagnosis if my child has had COVID to be afforded a 504 plan at school? Do I need a letter from my child's doctor?
So that's a great question, and I'm glad, though, that we stopped and you told me those questions, because that's going to make sure that as we kind of go through this, I'll show you the parts where that would apply and what to do. But, yes, it probably would help. It would help greatly, and your doctor may need to fill out, because of the category that this might qualify, especially when we're talking about IDEA for an IEP, that it would only help things to have a letter to take to the school for to be taken into consideration. But these are wonderful questions, and please ask. So we're going to dive into this. So when we look at Section 504, right, it's a civil rights law, and it prohibits the discrimination based on you have a disability, and you're to be entitled to equal access. And when we're talking about school, equal access to educational opportunity. IDEA Part B, which is in the school system, the 3 through 21 years old, is you're entitled, if you qualify under that, and know that that is a specific education law for students with disabilities, and you are to be provided a free, appropriate public education. Now, not everybody who is diagnosed with a disability qualifies under IDEA. It's not just enough to be diagnosed with a disability. And especially looking under the criteria, know that if you qualify and have an IEP, which is under IDEA, you also are covered by 504. And if you don't qualify for an IEP and under IDEA, it may be very well that you do under Section 504, and that's where a 504 plan could be written too, which we're going to dive in just a moment too. But I wanted to kind of preface that because I know we may have some people on here that may not know or have the background on 504 and IDEA related to school. So protections under IDEA. So students experience that you could be eligible for special education related services under IDEA and also under 504. So now it has been stated that long COVID is considered a disability, right? It could affect you. So now we know that this is a condition that would be considered a disability. So now we know we have these federal laws, 504 and law IDEA, that protect children and youth with disabilities and provide services and support. So now that we know that, and the thing again to keep in mind is nothing changed because of COVID, nothing changed with the laws, right? So we just know now we have another condition in addition to other disabilities that might qualify. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean they will, but it could qualify them. And when we're looking through the school system, then we could see how it impacts them in their educational achievement and their functional performance. Too. So now, to be eligible under IDEA, it's the same as if prior to now we have long COVID as a disability. And the category under that, because you have to, under IDEA, qualify, and this is Part B, which that we're talking about here now, which is the 3 through 21 through the public school system. It would qualify as an other health impairment. There is that category there. Many people are aware of, ADD, ADHD falls under the other health impaired category, Tourette's syndrome. There's a whole variety. Again, not everybody who's been diagnosed with them qualifies under that. And we'll talk about that here a little bit more about the qualifications. But the category under IDEA and for an IEP for long COVID you would look at is other health impaired. Now, your child already has an IEP, and under the category, I think it's important to bring up right now that they may not have to be additionally identified under the other, but say if it's outside of the other health impaired category that they qualify. But what's going to be important is that in requesting an IEP meeting, that in letting everyone be aware of this condition and now it affects them, and really looking at your present levels in your IEP, because if this is affecting them, we got to make sure that our present levels of performance, which guides how their whole program is written, because that tells you where they're at right now, where they need help with compared to their similar age peers. We need to make sure that that's giving the most up-to-date picture so that we can plan for that throughout the IEP. Also, too, under IDEA, which is Part C, which is the birth to until they turn 3 in Kentucky, that's first steps. they must receive, a comprehensive multidisciplinary evaluation to meet the state's eligibility criteria. And I like the example here. Infants with severe post-COVID conditions could, based on the evaluation, have developmental delays that could impact them from their development, which could qualify them under IDEA for early intervention services. Again, not all who have it are going to qualify, but it could. Under Section 504, again, when you look at this, it would be that a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity. So if your symptoms fall into and you have long COVID and your physical or mental impairment, just on the previous examples that we gave, impacts you in a major life activity, then you could qualify and be eligible under that. You have a record of such impairment, or you're regarded as having such an impairment. Now, that's something that's very key, because if people think and believe that you have that, that you are able to get it. It's not just having a record of it. And I think that's important to point out here under Section 504, not just with long COVID, but with any disability. And those are sort of some key things to keep in mind. Now, what to do if a child or student is experiencing it? And I love in the questions that you all ask is letting the school, there's a variety of ways and things that you could do, and talking with the school about that they might possibly be eligible for this, that you have noticed that this has gone on, and working with the doctor, that you've talked to the doctor about it, and that you all are looking at that, or that the doctor has diagnosed them. Again, just like with any of the eligibility, it's not just enough to be diagnosed, especially looking at IDEA, but if it could affect them, and having those conversations to see if they may possibly be eligible for those. Now, if they already have those in place, and there could possibly, so let me throw something else out there to y'all, which I'm sure y'all are like, really, Rhonda? But a student could possibly right now have a 504 plan and not qualified for IDEA. But they may also now have long COVID, and because of the long COVID might qualify them for an IEP under the other health impaired category. So it's going to depend, and it's hard to give everybody a definite answer, because it depends on how it affects each individual child, just like how it affects each adult, right? And we know it varies. So just keep those things in mind, and looking at its individual basis. And the same thing, although this is a new condition, a new disability, the same procedures that have been in place are still in place. Those laws didn't change, and you pick right up from there, just as if it were a disability that existed, and you still do the same process. I hope that makes sense. And again, and I love how that the guidance, sort of step through again, sort of the evaluation process, and sort of in IDEA, there's child find in the Part C, which is the birth to 3, and in Part B, which is the 3 through 21. And in Kentucky, so our lead agency, so the agency responsible in Kentucky is the Kentucky Department of Public Health, and the program is the First Steps program in Kentucky. So there are requirements around that, and parents signing, so that call to make a referral. If you don't have the number, we could get it to you. Call in to make a referral for First Step services, and seeing if, because if they have long COVID, they could possibly qualify. So you would do the same thing. And once you sign a parental consent, 45 days from that date, the evaluation has to be completed. And then if they qualify, an IFSP, that individual family service plan will be written. And that's with the family too, because the IEP, IFSP, and 504 plan, a parent is a critical member of those teams. And a part of that. But you would still do the same thing you would do to get them evaluated to see if they qualify for those programs. Now, at the school system, it's the same thing. They also have child find requirements too. And what you would do here is the same thing as a referral, and anyone could do it. A parent, anyone who has knowledge of the child. So call the school, send an email, request that they be evaluated under the other health impaired category of IDEA for an IEP. Know that in the reason you see here where it says, and I always like to put, because if you've ever been on any of my other IDEA or IEP trainings, because it is very specific, one of the reason, when IDEA was reauthorized in 2004, they put in the federal law, the 60 days to receive from the parental consent being signed for the evaluation to be done, unless the state had already established a time frame. Kentucky did, and it's 60 school days. So it would be the same process that you follow, that you make the referral. But here's the critical part in all of these is you've got to sign the parental consent to evaluate for things to start moving, because they can't do anything until you sign that. And many do not know that they have to sign that or even know about that to get that ball rolling. So request that parental consent, sign that immediately. And then when you're looking at it, whether it be under IDEA for the other health impaired category, in each category, there are guidelines that the schools that have been established to evaluate under that category. And many times you will see that under the other health impaired category it may be from a variety of sources. It could be a paper that your doctor also fills out, that you fill out, that explains things. So the same procedures take place when you're going through this. Now, for the 504, the evaluation procedures is the school must conduct the evaluation in a timely manner. The thing is, I would request that, by email and writing, that you want them to be evaluated under Section 504. It's important if you believe that they would qualify under IDEA for an IEP, because that is a specific education law. Again, not as many students qualify under that as they do 504, right? But if you feel they would, it's important to have them evaluated under IDEA for an IEP, because if they qualify, it's important that they have that in place. But the same thing, the evaluation, and there may be, the papers that need to be filled out by the doctor, a whole variety of things. So the same procedures that are developed and carried out in the district, regardless of the disability, would still take place. We just now have a new disability that we've never had to deal with before, or unfortunately, that is affecting a lot of people. When you look overall at as many people, and the possibility of as many people who have experienced and could experience COVID. Again, now the number of those that it may impact a major life activity, or, as we're going to look through here, it has, with 504, and I want to make sure I go right back here just a second, because when we talk about this, it's not just important to know under IDEA for Part B that you, the category that you would be evaluated, it has to, and I want to go back just a moment. I don't want to make you all dizzy though. So I apologize in advance, because this is something that that I wanted to make sure that I brought it, because you know how it could be eligible for. So it's not just you qualify under the other health impairment category, and that, or that there is a category that you could qualify under. It has to the disability has to adversely affect the child's educational performance. That's really key an idea. And also, too, they must need, I just lost my train of thought, specially designed instruction and related services. So those are some key things when you're talking about IDEA eligibility, and that are very important to keep in mind. So I'm sorry I bumped back there if I made you all dizzy here. So let me make sure I didn't go. There we go. So now the eligibility and implementation, everything, if they're eligible, then you would, and there's procedures if you're not in agreement that you could follow, especially under IDEA. If you're not in agreement with the evaluation completed under Part B through 3 through 21, and there also is under Part C with first steps, that, there's parental rights and ways to resolve things. So I'm going to concentrate right now on the Part B, through the school system. If you don't agree with the evaluation results, you do have the right to request an independent education evaluation through the school. And it's at the cost of the school. And the ARC team, which is the Admissions and Release Committee, which the parent is a part of and an equal member. The ARC team or IEP team, it means one and the same in Kentucky. You have a meeting, you request it, and so when you get those independent education evaluation results back, then as an ARC team, you have to at least take those into consideration. It's not a end all done deal if it says that, but you take it into consideration with everything else. But just so that you know that those same things and those rights that you have, regardless of the disability you're being evaluated for under that is a part of the procedural safeguards. And really looking at, especially, and I want to concentrate on the example here too. If you meet the definition of the other health impairment under IDEA, and you're experiencing the difficulty concentrating, anxiety related to it. But then another thing too, when we go down here, it'll be very different based on each individual child, which I know I've said, like I say all the time, right? Because every child's different, but it's true. So some may need the counseling service to address the anxiety. What are the things, and those can be provided through their IEP. That would be their individual education program. Some positive behavioral interventions, supports that promote them to stay on task. These are all things that could help in dealing with the effects, because if long COVID and they qualify for that, how it adversely affects them. So then the IEP would help so that they're able to be successful in the general curriculum. Now, so eligibility and implementation under 504, that is looking at if, for example, a group of knowledgeable people may determine that a student requires a reasonable modification to the attendance policy, or a modification to the untimed testing, or, medical appointments, or if, it could vary so much, because remember, some of it may affect you more than others. So there may be one day that you're not, because it may be physically affecting you, medical wise, you're not able to go to school, and there's different things that could play a part in it. And working closely with the school on all of this and building that partnership and how we go about it. Again, keep in mind too, if your child already has a 504 or an IEP, it's important to meet with them and talk with them, especially if you feel that your child may have this, or that they already have been diagnosed with long COVID, because it's important for everybody to be on the same page. And I would personally, if, you know, requesting an IEP or a 504 meeting could be very beneficial, so that everybody can come together, because this is going to maybe something, though, that we haven't addressed before, because we're just realizing that this is long COVID. And this is why this is happening. And it takes us all a while to figure this out, because many of us, we don't know. And again, it could be look different, and we don't know the long-term effects and how, and all of the systems, all of the symptoms that could, we know an example list, right? There's not been enough time to be able to see what all could be from this. So, having those conversations, building those partnerships, I think are going to be very important. So that everybody knows too, because remember, 504, now IDEA doesn't in the post-secondary, but college, trade school. Remember when we were talking about ADA and 504, how they are, it's not just in the school system, right? It's not just the public school, that is in the workplace, that for persons with disabilities who are in higher education, college, trade school, they're covered under 504. So what would be important is, if, you know, and it would be the same qualifications under 504, it limits you in at least one major life activity. It would be important for you, in thinking to it, if your student is getting ready to graduate and they're going on to college or trade school, to keep in mind, and if they are evaluated and have for IDEA or 504 for long COVID, it's going to be important, because rights transfer, you know, when they're an adult, the responsibility, they don't have to seek out and evaluate for disability or services. The school doesn't have a responsibility like under IDEA for the child find does. So it's the responsibility of the student to reach out to the Disability Support Center, and reaching out to the school and talking with them and seeing about reasonable modifications that might help, because if they do have a disability that would qualify under 504, which could be long COVID, that you need to work with the Disability Resource Center and with your instructors, because we want everybody to be successful in seeking those modifications, but know that they're not going to seek you out. You have to go to them, and you have to disclose your disability. You have to work with them and let them know, and then kind of come up with a game plan together. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out too, not just for long COVID, but for any disability. Because it's very different when you go on to college, into post-secondary or trade school. You don't necessarily have the same things that would happen, or some of the same laws like IDEA that cover you in that. And many people aren't aware of that. So I know I have went over like a lot, and I hope it was helpful, not a hot mess. So let's pause and take time for some questions here.
Sorry, I had a hard time unmuting again. Okay, so we have one question, and it says, are schools being trained to recognize long COVID?
So here's the short, there may be some schools, and this is not just in Kentucky, but throughout the U.S., that may be doing that right now. But I don't know that everybody has, I think this is all so new that this is not, I can double check, and actually I will share if there are already some things that have been put in place with different schools. I don't know that they are actively actively doing that right now. I think a lot of it right now um, is making sure that everybody is aware, and the point we're at right now, that this actually is a condition. This actually could qualify and be considered a disability, and then in fact, as a disability, could qualify, in general, it could be qualified as disability, but then looking at it in the educational setting, it also then could qualify under 504 IDEA or both. So I don't know that right now that's actively happening. I think a lot of things are in the education aspect right now, because whether you're a parent or a teacher, I don't think many people, and one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this with the guidance being released is so everyone's aware of it, because I've not heard much about it. And so one of the things, it may be that, it very likely, no matter where you live, if it's in Kentucky or another state, that if you talk to the school about it, they may not know, right? All of us don't know everything about everything. Part of that might be an educational piece, or providing the information. And that's why I like to be able to provide y'all with exactly what comes out of the guidance and the links to those, so that if it is, you can share that with others. I think a lot of it too, because we don't know, not just that they're not actively doing it and on purpose, right? Because none of us is doing that. I think because we are so unsure of the extent and what qualifies and what would. I'm trying to think what not only would qualify, but to what extent, and everyone's understanding, regardless of what area or field you're in, long COVID in general, and how it would be considered a disability, because it depends upon the extent. So I think a lot of it is in the learning stages right now. I do know, though, that in working with the Kentucky Department of Education, that that everyone's aware of guidance that has been released. The superintendents and the districts, and the heads of special education, and that KDE has worked with the schools and are there helping not only the schools but families too. Because when this first hit, I was very fortunate to be able, because at first I was like, oh my gosh, and the ladies would probably never admit it at KDE, but they helped me when this came out, because they're so gracious, because I was like, okay, now I'm just going to have to wrap my head around this, and the impact of what this is. And so they're helping all of us and the districts at the same time. And not only them helping the districts, but those that are the head of the districts are helping the teachers and everybody at the same time rolling it out. So I think a lot of it too is just all of us spreading our knowledge, and that probably was way long of an explanation than you ever wanted. But I think, as if with all of this, we are all learning as we go, and it seems like every day, I don't know about you all, but every day, every hour, there is something new, right? And so we've been living in this, all of us, for, I don't even know if I want to track the time. I feel like it's been decades. I don't know about you all, but I try to think back to March of 2020, and I literally think that felt like 20 years ago. But, working through this and how we can help, and any information and updated stuff that we can help get for you all, I hope that answer kind of helped, because I know it was like a long drawn out. But I think we're all in the process of sharing that knowledge, sharing that assistance. But I do know that they are taking a very active role in spreading that and helping with all of the aspects, not just with long COVID, but in many of the others. So were there any other questions before we go off of here because I know that we are up exactly at exactly at time. I didn't know if there were any others.
I think there is one more. Oh, nope. Got it. So, no, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And you all I hope you have a wonderful day. You're going to be prompted for a survey. If you would please take time and fill that out. We greatly value your input. And it will help us as we plan and continue to try to offer the best information and support that you need. And please let us know. We've got some trainings coming up next week. You click on our website. We've got an awesome positive behavior intervention supports. KDE is going to be presenting on that. And then we're also presenting on the response to intervention and early intervention services next week. You're welcome to attend those webinars. Then the week following that, we are having a post-secondary transition conference for youth, families. It's virtual, and for professionals. So we'd love if you all could join us. They're on our website. You can go under the events and click right from the event to register. We would love to have you and help spread the word for us. And I hope you all have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much.